I'm all done washing the car. Hey, this wind is kicking up. I better move the car in before it blows the dirt on. Maybe that will buff out. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing an interior refresh on my Tesla Model 3. This is my 2019 Tesla Model 3. It's got the original interior for a Model 3, so that includes a round steering wheel. Today we're going to be installing a Yoke steering wheel to replace the factory round steering wheel. Nothing wrong with this wheel. It is amazing. It feels very comfortable. You will love the factory wheel if you've never been in a Tesla. It feels great. But all of the new Teslas coming out, the latest refreshed Model S, the Model X, the Cybertruck, the Roadster, they all come with a Yoke steering wheel, which is going to cut off the top of this wheel and just keep the bottom part. And largely due to them having a display behind the wheel that shows other information alongside the main screen here. The Tesla Model 3 and Model Y do not have a display here. This one's a third-party one from Handshow. I've also got their heads-up display that I use quite a bit too. I'm holding the camera at my eye level, and this is where the steering wheel just doesn't work for me because it blocks my view of my reading here. But that's also why I've kept this heads-up display, because I can see some information here, some information up there, and it's just kind of worked. But what if I was to cut this off? I would have full view of my screen, and I would have no need for this guy anymore. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go ahead and remove this wheel, put on a Yoke steering wheel, and see how I like that. So if you like modding your car, the Tesla platform is great because there's a huge aftermarket. It seems like there's new companies making Tesla products every other month. Today, I'm going to install a Yoke steering wheel from a new company to me called Aroham. They reached out to me, said they have a Yoke steering wheel that they'd like me to install and test and review. So that's what we're going to do today. This is the box they shipped it in. This is their logo, Aroham. And let's open it up, see how it looks. All right, this is what the packaging looks like. It's nicely padded, protected here. And this is the wheel. It's got gloss carbon fiber here, Napa leather, white stitching. Just my initial thoughts is that this is a quality piece. It looks really nice. So Aroham can make a custom Yoke steering wheel for you. They can, change up the leather if you want black, if you want Alcantara, if you want carbon fiber, no carbon fiber, you name it, they can make it for you. If your car came with a heated steering wheel from the factory, you can add that option to get a heated Yoke steering wheel, but you cannot add heated steering wheel if your car did not come with it from the factory. Because I am a Tesla ambassador, I show my car off everywhere I go, always talking about it, having people sit in, look at it. So I wanted to have something bold. I wanted to make a statement with this because this is the piece that you look at. Every time you get in, it's something that your hands touch, your eyes see. So don't go boring. Don't get just regular black. I mean, I guess you could, but go bold. What? No, I said bold, not bald. Yeah, go bald. That's what you need. You need to have your self-esteem taken down a notch. So before we get the new wheel in the car, we need to take the old wheel out. I'm going to show you a couple tools that you're going to need for this. You will need a ratchet with a 10 millimeter. And this is mainly just to remove the post off the battery. You will need a breaker bar, and you will need a 10 millimeter hex bit to remove the bolt. You'll also need a couple, either some screwdrivers or some Allen keys Just something that you can fit into the little holes on the side of the steering wheel to release the clips that hold the airbag in. And lastly, if you really want to, have extra credit, you can use a torque wrench to torque it back down, but we'll talk about all that in a minute. Step one is to open the rear door, because we're going to cut power to the car, and these are electronically opened and closed, so make sure you got a door open. Got my door open here. We're going to pop the frunk. So let's go ahead and pop the frunk. We're going to select safety and then power off. Make sure you get out of the chair. You don't want the sensor to notice that you're in there. So I'm going to hit power off, and that's powering off the system. While I'm doing that, I can go ahead and get into here. You're going to remove this cowl area that just pops off. It's held on by clips. You just remove it with no tools. This is your 12-volt battery. All we're going to do is loosen this bolt here to remove this terminal off the post. And you don't need to remove this completely. You just need to loosen it up so it slides off. And we're just doing the negative side. You don't need to loosen up the positive side. All right, so I've got this good and loose. We're just going to remove it from the post. Set it off to the side like that. Now we're going to go back to the passenger side rear seat here. We're going to move this little latch this way, and that'll give us access to this little foam piece you take out. This piece right here, we're going to latch it down and pull it off. That'll remove power from the main battery pack. So the airbag is held on by a couple clips, and you're going to need to get into this hole here, and there's one just like it on the other side. The thing to know is that even though this is a round hole, this is it's pliable, so you could actually fit like a flathead screwdriver in there, and it'll bend a little bit to fit. So you don't need to worry about it being a perfect size, but it works better if you get two and do one on each side at the same time. And let me show you why. So if you get a tool, just anything like this, I just grabbed something to fit in here, it will fit. It's, like I said, this is rubberized, so it's pliable. You can get a flathead. I'll show you that. You get a flathead and fit it in like that. So you don't have to worry about having an exact tool. What you want though is something that will push on this little bracket that's in here. Let me see if I can show you. You see what I'm touching here? It's a metal clip, and when you push on it, you got to get it just right, and that's why it's a little tricky. You push on it, it will release the clips holding the airbag in. Let me see if this tool's any better. Yeah, you just need something in there to move that metal clip to where it'll pop the little bracket here that holds the airbag in place. So as you can see, the bracket is flush against the rear part of the wheel. So when you stick the tool in, angle it kind of towards the back and up, and that should release it. And just like that, airbag is removed. So I've got the airbag here. It's just kind of hanging by the wire. I've got it resting here. But let me just show you a bit of the anatomy of the wheel, just so you have a better understanding of how to put this back together. So this is going to be your clip for the airbag. To remove that, you see these little tabs, one here and one right there. You need to squeeze them together, whether you use your fingers or needle nose pliers, whatever works for you. You'll need to squeeze those together to depress it, and then you can pull the whole thing out, and then the airbag will be completely free. There's another harness over here, a dark purple one, and it's the same thing. You need to unclip both sides here and slide that out. This is the electronics for the wheel itself. This is just the airbag, and this is for the electronics, the controls. Now, something else very important to show you is these little springs right here. You'll see that they are clipped into place into this metal casing here. These pop off pretty easily, and I'll show you that on the other yoke wheel. But what you want to do is, before you put this all back together, you want to make sure that these springs are clipped into the metal brackets there. This is basically your horn for when you honk the horn and you push on it. These springs press in and make connection. You see the two metal parts? When those metal springs touch each other, that's what's going to complete the circuit and honk the horn. If you don't put this in properly, and you put everything back together and you've got it pushed in and those metal clips are pressed against each other, your horn will honk when you connect the battery back, and you won't be able to turn it off until you take this apart again and remove that connection. So that's why it's important to show you. And back at the yoke, just to show you what I was talking about, these are the metal retainers there that you would put this in. You see how it's just loose? A lot of people don't know that it needs to clip back in, and so they just put the airbag in like this and just hope that it's connected, but you need to make sure it gets connected into here first. It just clips in like that. Then you can put the airbag back in. I'm going to try to remove this with a small flathead screwdriver. I'm just pushing down on both tabs so I could pull the yellow connector out. So I've got the little clips pushed down on here, and I'm still having a hard time getting it out because it's just stuck in there real good. Whatever you do, do not pull by the wires. Always grab by the yellow part here. And if you need to use some needle nose pliers to grab that, feel free to do that. Just be extra careful not to pull on the wires. You don't want them to depin from the harness there. And the airbag is free. Now I'm going to do the same with the electronics on this side. Push on one side and the other. And that will be free as well. Next, we need to remove this hex bit. It's a 10 millimeter. You will need a breaker bar. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, to get this 10 millimeter off, you need a 10 millimeter hex bit right here. I would not recommend an Allen key. I would recommend a ratchet style. Now, you need a breaker bar to really put the torque on to remove this. This is my breaker bar. Most breaker bars are pretty big and beefy because you want to remove things like lug nuts from your wheels. A breaker bar basically is just a wrench that does not have any ratcheting gears inside here, and that is on purpose. They want you to put as much torque on this to break loose any bolts that are stuck. That's why it's called a breaker bar. Some people call it a cheater bar, but if you go to a store, it says breaker bar. So the problem is most 10 millimeter hex bits are not going to fit a 1/2 inch breaker bar. So you will need an adapter. So put the adapter on, and now we're all good to go. So real quick, I just want to give you a crash course on some tools. This is the breaker bar we're using. I just showed you the adapter, and this is how we're going to do it. The longer the breaker bar that you have, the less pressure you need to push down on it. If you need a longer breaker bar, I've got a handle that I just took from my floor jack. You can put this on like this, and now you've got even more leverage to break that bolt loose with less effort. I've seen people try to use these. There's just not enough leverage to get it off. And if you really had to, you could go this route like that if you don't have a breaker bar. But guys, these things, they're like $12 to $15 at AutoZone. You can pick these up anywhere. Whatever you do, do not use a torque wrench to break loose any bolts. You'll be tempted to because you see it's got the length, you've got the leverage, it's beefy enough that it could really break it loose. But the problem is that inside here are gears that are highly calibrated to measure the amount of torque that you put down on it. If you use this as a breaker bar to loosen bolts, you will destroy the calibration in here to where no matter what you set it to, it won't be an accurate reading. You'll have to either take this into a shop to be recalibrated, or you may have to buy a new one, and these aren't cheap. Torque wrenches, they go anywhere from like 80 bucks to, I've seen $250 for torque wrenches. They've got digital ones, analog ones like this one. This is a fairly cheap one, but it's highly accurate and it's been great. I recommend getting one, especially if you change like your wheels, if you do anything where you need to torque down your lug nuts. That's what this is for. And we might use this to torque down the steering wheel. But like I said, it's only for tightening. You never loosen anything with a torque wrench. Something else that I've seen you guys do that just makes me cringe is when you put this in, I've seen some of you trying to push up on it like this. That I would not recommend, only because I've seen these things slip out to where if you were to slip out, immediately above you, you've got glass here, you've got a glass roof. You don't want this thing to come flying up and crack your glass. What you want to do is put it this way, and then that way you can push down and put your weight into it. You don't want to have to lift up. It's easier to probably just get out of the car, stand off to the side here, and put your weight down to break this loose. I'm right-handed, and as you can see, I'm easily able to loosen this with some leverage using my left hand. There we go. Now you can just take an extension to your ratchet and just ratchet it off the rest of the way. There we go. And as you can see, one of the reasons these things are so hard to get off is it's got thread locker on it. So now all you need to do is pull on it. You can sometimes what you can do is kind of beat it to loosen it up a little bit and then just shimmy it off like that. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the factory wheel with the Aroham wheel. You'll see that it does have a lot of the same stampings. This says KSS, this says JSS. Right here is the Tesla stamp right under this circle. This one is mysteriously blocked out with something on there. I guarantee you there's probably a Tesla stamp there, because what they usually do is they take a Tesla factory wheel, chop off all the sides, and then put their new side welded to it and put all the other parts to it. But this looks good. All right, so there's only one way to put this in. If you look closely at the splines here, you'll see there is a groove cut out, and if will match what's inside here. There's also these pieces here where it can only fit in one way. Also make sure you notate with this clock spring here that these electronic controls here for the airbag and the controls need to match up with these openings right here. So if you kind of put it on like that and push, it will slide into place. I'm just kind of shimmying it forward. There we go. Feels good. So we will then put our connections in. That only goes in one way. We can put our bolt back in. So you don't really need to get your torque wrench out and torque this down. I didn't even find the settings online anywhere of what the torque specs are for the steering wheel. But on average, just from looking at other steering wheels, around 30 foot-pounds is probably plenty. But you just want to make sure you get it good and snug. And I think we're good there. All right, next, before we put the airbag back on, we're going to do what I was telling you earlier about these horn clips. We need to make sure they're stuck in. You see they've got these little prongs here that go into the little grooves. So you need to make sure they snap into place. Like that. There. And this one goes in here. They just clip into place. You'll hear them click. There we go. Same down here. Okay. All right. So now we can take our airbag module, we'll plug that in first, like this. Yeah, so it only goes in one way. It clicks into place like that. Then you line up these 3 prongs to go into the holes. And you just push until it clicks. All right, so we're looking good here. Steering wheel is installed. All we need to do now is connect the power again, and then we can do our adjustments to raise this up so it doesn't hit your knees now, because it is a wider, squared off bottom. So you will need to make some adjustments, but let's go ahead and connect power again and go from there. So as I said, you're probably going to need to raise your wheel a little bit. So I'm going to go into my settings here and raise this up just a tiny bit to where it feels comfortable. All right. I think that's how I'm going to have it. All right, driving the yoke for the first time. We'll see how this goes. So far, it is a little weird at first. Yeah, because you want to grab the top. I do like the spacing. I like the distance between both sides. Feels very comfortable. You basically want to make sure that the wheel turns without banging your leg. That's how you know you got it set at the right height. As far as the grip feels very good, very comparable to the factory wheel. All right. So far, so good. It is very good as far as the field of view now. Like I see my screen here with no obstruction. Like, I don't even need the heads-up display anymore. I could remove that and just have this screen here to have a cleaner look on my dash. So far, I like it a lot. It does feel comfortable to hold. And like I said, this is the future of Tesla. All other models, other than the lesser expensive ones like the Model 3, like this car, and the Model Y, those still have a round wheel because they don't have any kind of gauge cluster behind the wheel. The Model S and X do. I've heard rumor that the Cybertruck may have a gauge cluster behind the wheel. And that's why they have the yoke, so you have full view. So I was a bit concerned that I'm not going to like the way I drive with it, because a lot of times I will drive with my arm on the armrest, my hand here, and either my left hand on the top of the wheel or down at the bottom, down here. And I find myself wanting to grab it and it's not there. So you just have to retrain your brain where to put the hands. And I think, you know, if you're not holding it at 3 and 9, then this is very comfortable. Just kind of leaving your hand, left hand here, and holding the right hand on this side. And then if you need to turn, if you're turning left, you take your right hand and grab the squared off corner here and kind of push it this way. And if you're going to turn to the right, I just kind of flip my left hand over like this and rotate it that way. So it's all good. It's just you got to retrain your brain of where to grab and all that. And I think after a few days of this, I'm going to get used to it really quick. Back in my garage, and I just can't get over how good this thing looks. Like, even just look at the carbon fiber. It's got that high def 3D look into the fiber. It looks very elegant. I really like the way this looks. Just like anything else Tesla with white interior, just make sure your hands are clean and you won't have to clean this so often. I do like another touch that they did was this surround area is white all along here. That's different than the factory wheel also. It just looks really elegant. I really do love the way this white yoke steering wheel looks in a white car. It looks amazing. I have seen other colors that they do make. You can get a black leather. You can also get black Alcantara. You can get contrast stitching along where they have the stitches here, like in a different color. They've got, you know, carbon fiber. You can get matte carbon fiber. You can have just a regular flat black. You don't have to have a carbon fiber at all. It's really, the sky's the limit. Just let them know what you want and they'll make it for you. Aroham was kind enough to give us a discount code. If you want to save some money, use code BCTESLA, and that'll save you some money on this. But I think it looks really nice and it feels really good. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. So when you're in a parking lot full of Model 3s, there will now be no mistaking whose car this is. What do you think about the yoke steering wheel? Do you like it? I know it's not going to be for everyone, but it does give it a very cool look. It doesn't feel as awkward as I thought it would. You'll get used to it pretty quick. It separates your car from the rest in the parking lot. I think it looks amazing. It's cool. It is the future of Tesla. All their other cars are heading that direction, whether you like it or not. So that's it, guys. If you liked the video, let me know by hitting that like button. If you want to join our family, consider subscribing. If you want to support the channel, you can buy a t-shirt from BecauseTeslaStreetwear.com. Use coupon code BCTESLA to get free shipping on all orders. And I will see you guys real soon.
Not afraid of